Well, hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to our second edition of Breaking News this Saturday. It is the fourth day of October, 2025, and let me tell you, things are moving fast and furious with respect to Donald Trump's peace plan. Our first headline comes from Israel National News, where President Trump says he appreciates that Israel has temporarily stopped the bombing in Gaza, and he says Hamas must move quickly. This is his warning to them. No dilly-dallying around. You must move quickly. We also find out that Steve Witkoff and the other negotiators are on the route to Cairo now as Hamas sends its delegation for Gaza deal talks. This is from the Jerusalem Post. So they're on their way to start the talks. Ostensibly, it will be tomorrow. Prime Minister Netanyahu then said in a video statement that he hopes Israel will see the return of the hostages in the next few days. That's from the Times of Israel. Wouldn't that be wonderful? We're praying for that. Also from the Times of Israel, an Israeli official warned hostages could be free in a few days, but here comes the but. But it's possible that Hamas could torpedo the deal. We will have to wait and see. And finally, from the Wall Street Journal, by way of the Jerusalem Post, Hamas may not be able to deliver on terms of agreement. They are still divided. Mediators warn, and that's part of the problem. One of the other terrorist groups there in Gaza, Islamic Jihad, has already said they're not going to agree to the peace plan, and they're holding at least two hostages. So we'll have to wait and see how this all turns out. All right, first headline Israel National News. Donald Trump says he appreciates that Israel has temporarily stopped the bombing. Hamas must move quickly. He commended Israel for halting the offensive operations, but warned if Hamas did not work quickly, all bets are off. I appreciate that Israel has temporarily stopped the bombing to give the hostage release and peace deal a chance to be completed. He wrote this on Truth Social, but Hamas must move quickly or all bets are off. He also warned this, and I love this part: I will not tolerate delay, which many think will happen. I will not tolerate any outcome where Gaza poses a threat again. Let's get this done fast. Everyone will be treated fairly. Well, let's hope and pray that it is done quickly. Now, we also find, like we just mentioned, Steve Witkoff and other negotiators are on the route to Cairo as Hamas sends its delegation to for Gaza for the Gaza deal talks. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Hostage and ceasefire deal negotiations are expected to begin tomorrow, Sunday, with both sides reportedly preparing withdrawal maps. In other words, how far is Israel going to move back? What are they going to do? And this is one of the things that must be worked out. U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner are expected to arrive in Cairo for talks on the deal to end the war in Gaza. A source familiar with the negotiations reported today, Saturday. Hamas negotiators are also expected to arrive in Cairo tonight, Saturday night. According to the Saudi outlet Al Arabiya, an Israeli delegation will arrive on Sunday or Monday, and hopefully we will get an announcement sometime next week. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has basically said this, and this has come to our third headline. This is from the Times of Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu says in a video statement that he hopes Israel will see the return of the hostages in the next few days. Israel is on the brink of a very big achievement, he says. It's still not final. We are working hard on it. I hope that with God's help in the coming days during the Sukkot holiday, that's of course the Feast of Tabernacles, temporary shelters, we will be able to announce the return of all the hostages, the living and the slain, in one go, with the IDF still deployed deep in Gaza. He blasted senior officials who argued it would be impossible to get all the hostages back without leaving Gaza entirely. Now, so far, Israel, let's keep our count here, has recovered 207 hostages to this stage, he stresses. But I said I never gave up on the rest of the hostages. I never gave up on the rest of the war aims, he said. He said he coordinated with U.S. President Donald Trump a diplomatic move that turned the situation on its head while IDF troops were pressing into Gaza City. Instead of Israel being isolated, Hamas will be isolated, he said. In the first stage, he says all the hostages will be released and the IDF will redeploy to positions that allow it to continue to oversee Gaza. He also argued that the only reason Hamas is willing to release all the hostages is military and diplomatic pressure. Netanyahu then returned to an often used line, which that he has withstood enormous pressure internationally and at home to end the war and to give in to Hamas demands. And that is really an understatement. The amount of pressure this man has been under is hard to even conceive. It's off the charts, not only internationally, but actually diplomatically too, and from his own people there in Israel. There's still a leftist group there that would love to see him out of office. He then thanked U.S. President Donald Trump for his firm support and for joining in on the strikes in Iran's nuclear program. He says in English that it's true that Israel can get the release of all the hostages without withdrawing from the Gaza Strip. With God's help, it will happen very soon. Netanyahu says he told Israel's negotiating team, led by Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer, to head to Cairo to nail down the technical details of the hostage release. Our intention and the intention of our American friends is to bind the negotiations into a matter of days, he said. In the second phase of the deal, Netanyahu said Hamas will be disarmed, the Gaza Strip will be demilitarized, it will happen diplomatically or militarily, Netanyahu warns, but it will indeed happen. So let us hope and pray this optimism is not dashed because of our next story. It's also from the Times of Israel. Israeli officials said hostages could be free in a few days. Here comes the but. But as we know, Hamas could torpedo the deal. Who knows? Sources close to Netanyahu says Hamas was never previously prepared to free all the hostages without full IDF pullout from Gaza. Earlier reports had said the PM was taken aback when Trump welcomed Hamas's response. If talks set to be held in Egypt on finalizing the technicalities of Hamas's release of hostages under U.S. President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan proceeds smoothly, all the hostages could be released within a few days, a senior Israeli official told Channel 12 News on Saturday. The talks are to be held from Sunday or Monday and will be attended by Hamas and Israeli delegations. U.S. Special Middle East Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. The presence of the Americans, who a U.S. source confirmed the Times of Israel, will be traveling to Egypt this weekend, underline the U.S. determination to ensure the deal proceeds as planned, the source said. Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer is set to head the Israeli negotiating team. The unnamed senior Israeli official said that the current fast-moving developments have been fully coordinated between Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, and that the two leaders spoke by telephone on Friday, not long before Trump declared that he believes Hamas is ready for peace, and told Israel to immediately stop the bombing of Gaza so we can get the hostages out safely and quickly. Israeli forces indeed shifted overnight to defensive operations in the Gaza Strip, and we mentioned that in our previous broadcast of Breaking News today. The source, evidently close to the prime minister, hailed the progress towards the potential imminent release of all the hostages as a great achievement for Netanyahu and for Israel, since it represents the possibility of getting all the hostages back home without Israel having capitulated to Hamas's demand for a full withdrawal from the Strip, as Hamas has demanded for the past 2 years. No such deal was on the table until now. The senior source told Channel 12, until now, Hamas demanded that Israel fully withdraw from Gaza, and only then would the final hostages be freed. The source told Ynet that the talks in Egypt would likely last only a few days. No one is going there to sunbathe. Witkoff wants to get it done and move forward. It was certainly possible that Hamas would try to torpedo the deal, the source said, and Israel was prepared for all possibilities. In the meantime, Ynet News was told that the IDF has reduced its fire in Gaza, but not ceased its fire. Now that's interesting. So that Hamas can get organized to return the hostages as quickly as possible. The IDF was not allowing Palestinians to return to Gaza City, the source also stressed. In a few days, we should know one way or another. Can you believe it? Today is October 4th. In 3 days, it'll be the 2-year anniversary of the Hamas's horrific raid into Israel that took about 1,400 lives, that led to all the captives, 250 plus captives, and 2 years of nothing but heartache for the people of Israel, particularly the hostage family and the families of those who lost loved ones there. That includes the soldiers. About 1,000 soldiers have died fighting the battle too. So it's hard to believe, but in a couple of days, when we have the 2-year anniversary, we may get the end of this. So we'll pray towards that end. Now, finally, from the Jerusalem Post, the Hamas may not be able to deliver on terms of agreement. They're still divided. Mediators warned in that, and is part of the problem. As Hamas was unable to pay its fighters and coordinate with newly recruited terrorists, mediators fear terrorists will ignore Hamas's demands to disarm for a ceasefire. Hamas is divided on whether to move forward with U.S. President Donald Trump's 20-point plan to end the war in Gaza and return the remaining 48 hostages. Arab officials involved in mediation attempts told the Wall Street Journal yesterday, Friday. One of the main causes of the rift is that Hamas is divided on disarming and under what condition to let the hostages go, according to the officials. Khalil al-Hayya and several other senior Hamas political officials reportedly support the U.S. deal, but Hamas officials in the Gaza Strip are reportedly less eager to see the war end on Trump's terms. Hamas leader Is al-Din al-Haddad reportedly told mediators that he would be open to compromise and is willing to give rockets and offensive weapons to Egypt and the UN. However, he allegedly sought for Hamas to retain some arms, like assault rifles, arguing that these weapons are defensive. Now, complicating the situation further, Hamas commanders are reportedly unsure they would be able to enforce the disarmament, as the terrorists they oversee will likely be unwilling to hand over their weapons, according to the mediators. Now, this is one of the many worries. Again, let us pray that this all works out. It will not be easy. And of course, we will keep you posted here on Breaking News. I'm Don Stewart. Thank you again for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.